Can't remember what this series is called.
You wanted to call it Storytime.
Okay. Hello everyone, you join the Thriving Scrubs for another edition of Storytime.
That's the name you want to call it.
That's what I'm calling it.
That's what we're going with.
I'm in charge
All right.
of that element of production, so it's fine. This time we're doing Jace.
Yeah, we're doing Jace. So we did Kithian last time. Be sure to check that one out if you didn't catch it. Just going through the backstory of everyone's favourite Planeswalker. Now we're on to, I believe, Jace is Magic's most popular character. Like, when they do polls, Jace polls highest.
Yeah. I think he's the one that people who aren't familiar with Magic are most likely to know.
Yeah, he's on a lot of the promotional material, isn't he? You see Jace all over the place. He's kind of the poster boy of the game.
He's kind of cool, I guess. Is he, though?
Izzy will get to that, because that's what today's episode is all about. Is Jace cool? So, I think before we go into too much detail, I just want to talk about where Jace is from, because it's not a plane that there's too much information about. There's never been a set there. The only references to it are from Plane Chase and from cards in Magic Origins. So, Vryn, here's what we know. There's a mage ring network on Vryn, and what those are they're massive rings that people live in. So they're inhabited, and they're sort of conduits of mana. And the mage rings shoot mana through to a place called the core states. Alright?
Okay.
That's pretty much it. Apart from, there is a war. There's a war going on in Vryn. It's been going on for ages, and there are two sides to the war. And it's all to do with who controls the mage rings. Because who controls the mage rings, controls the mana, and so on and so forth. So there's the Amprin League, who currently control the mage rings.
Okay.
And there's the Trovian Separatists.
Oh.
I hope you're taking notes, because this is going to be important. That's pretty much all there is to know about Vryn, but all of this stuff is going to come up. So
okay.
That's the sort of gist of the plane. It's where Jace lives. So we meet Jace, and he's living in poverty in a 23rd floor apartment in one of the mage rings.
Okay.
So he's living with his family. Now, in a lot of ways, and I'll explain this as we go through, Vryn reminds me a bit of Yorkshire. Because it's very industrial.
I don't know why you're saying that, but already, how dare you?
So, it's a lot like Yorkshire. So Jace is living on a 23rd floor apartment in a massive industrial structure.
Yeah.
There are lifts up to his apartment, but his family can't afford them because they're poor. And Jace, as we meet him, is coming home from school.
Okay.
So he's about 13 years old at this point. He's coming home from school, and he knows he's going to be in trouble. And he's going up these stairs. As he passes, someone sort of gives him a shove, and Jace casually reads the guy's mind. The guy's thinking, lack-witted idiot. So, first thing we learn about Jace, essentially, he can read people's minds. He's a telepath.
Is that the first time he does it?
Yeah, he does it all through this story, man. I'm not going to mention it every time he does it, because we'd be here all day. But yeah, lots of mind reading going on. He can read the minds of people around him. And that's the first thing he reads, someone calling him a lack-witted idiot, presumably for walking up the stairs wrong. And he gets to his family home, where his dad, Gav Bellerin, is sitting there. Gav Bellerin.
Gavin? Is it Gavin Bellerin?
Gav Bellerin.
No, it's Gavin, though.
Gav Bellerin. And he's sitting there, and he's described as being grubby and balding. Again, Yorkshire.
With a flat cap.
Yeah, flat cap, smoking pipe, reading the Yorkshire Post.
Feet up by the fire.
Yeah, and as Jace goes in, he reads his dad's mind, or he hears his dad's thought, and his dad's just thinking, oh, I wish he was normal.
Oh,
so, yeah, poor Jace, man. He's having a rough time.
Poor Jace.
So, Gav has already received the news.
What's his mum called?
We don't find
Sue
out. Probably Barbara. But Gav has received an illusion from Jace's school explaining, the illusion beat Jace home, and it explained what Jace has done wrong. And Gav goes, all right, Jace, what happened?
Oh.
And while this is going on, Jace gets a little glimpse into his dad's mind, and his dad's very disappointed in him. He wants a better life for Jace. All of it. He's coming from the right places, Gav. Again, Yorkshire. He just wants a better life for
Yeah.
I'm going back to the Yorkshire of the 50s, the sort of industrial hard grit.
Yeah,
the
romanticised
north.
on strike north.
That's exactly.
Billy Elliot.
Exactly. Anyway, we'll get back to that in a second. But the point is, Gav's going, look, Jace, what have you done?
This isn't gonna land with any of our fans in the Netherlands or in South America.
Well, they can Google Yorkshire and see what they find.
Google Yorkshire.
It's a and just to clarify as well, I do love Yorkshire. I don't want anyone to be thinking this is an attack. But anyway, that's enough about Yorkshire. Jace has come home, and Gav's saying, all right, what have you done, Jace? What is it this time? And essentially what happened was Jace was doing a mana dynamics test, you know, as you do.
Yeah.
He's doing his mana dynamics test at school, and it was really hard. And he was trying to figure out, how do I answer these mana equations? And the answers just came to his head. He didn't know how to do it. They just appeared in his mind.
Okay.
Because he's brilliant or something. But the twist with this test, and this is something I want to bring up a little bit here, because this test was designed for the students to fail. Okay. They're not supposed to be able to do it. They're not supposed to know the answers to this test. Yeah. Now, what do you think of that as an education
That's
course?
really good schooling, isn't it? To get a bunch of 13-year-olds together and give them a test that they can't complete.
That they shouldn't be able to do, yeah. No matter, is that a sign of bad teaching?
Self-confidence and development.
Yeah, exactly. It's a weird... Vrin's got a few things weird about it, and Gav's just straight up like, Jace, did you cheat?
Right, so the school think that he must have...
Yeah, they're thinking he must have cheated.
Okay.
And Gav's words are, they're saying you solved a 6-node mana pressure equation in your head. If that's true, you should be supervising a regulator team, not taking lessons. Jace shrugs and goes, maybe I should be. We've got more sass.
This again!
If you thought the sass was gone,
Jesus.
There's more sass. He's not quite as bad as Kithian, but we're going to get some teenage sass from Jace. Gav's response to that is to thump his fist on the table and tell Jace to go to his room.
Cool.
Respectable. I like Gav a lot. I think Gav's got a lot of the right ideas. Instead of going to his room...
Give us a Gav Planeswalker.
Gav Beleren. Legendary creature, maybe. So Jace, instead of going to his room, because he's a little rebel, he climbs out an access hatch to the top of the Mage Ring, which in the art for Jace Vryn's Prodigy, that's where he is. So he's standing on this massive structure, he's really, really high up,
right.
and he's surveying the beauty of Vryn. It's very brown and muddy as a place. Like, if you look at the art, it's quite sort of grim.
Yeah.
But he's looking around there. He likes it up there because he can't hear what everyone's thinking, because he's really high up and away from people, so he can just be alone with his thoughts. And he's watching the Mage Rings are all firing up and shooting energy across, and that's all very cool. Mm-hmm. He likes the look of that. And then, to strengthen my argument that Jace is in fact from Yorkshire, he pulls out some meat pies and starts eating them.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. Read the story. That's what he does. He brings out some meat pies and watches the mana shoot through the Mage Ring network.
Good, lovely.
And he's thinking, as he watches this, about all the mages doing all their maths within the Mage Rings, and thinking, could I do the maths? Maybe I am that brilliant. I don't know. You know, he's sitting there wondering.
Yeah.
But then he hears a thought in his mind. There's the freak. And he turns around and sees the bullies. Here they are.
No.
I'll run you through the bullies.
It's Crab and Goyle.
It's Crab and Goyle. So we got Tuck. He's 14 years old and he's described as being built like a loading dock.
Wow.
He is also Mage Ring Bully, the card from Origins.
Oh, cool.
That's Tuck.
Okay.
But then we got Caden, who is described as being crater-faced, and apparently makes Tuck look brilliant, so presumably he's a bit thick.
Yeah.
And then we got Gillett, who's an angry young woman who has power over the boys in some way, and she wants to push Jace down a flight of stairs, so I like her more already.
Where's the art for that? Where's the card for that?
Yeah.
Jace being pushed down the stairs.
We only get Mage Ring Bully, not Jace getting thrown downstairs, which is kind of sad. There is some art that was done exclusively for the story, which will be on the screen now, I imagine. It's just sort of filler art that they did for the sake of this story, but you can see them all in there. You can see Gillett. We never learn much more about Gillett, but, you know, very exciting. And they're all advancing on Jace because he's a nerd or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
you're
a nerd,
freak.
Beat the nerd.
And yeah, basically Tuck's going, look, we know you didn't cheat. You're just a freak. Tell us you're a freak, Jace. Jace, tell us you're a freak. And he does, and Tuck says, oh, I'm sorry, Jace, I couldn't hear you. Can you say it again, louder?
Stop hitting yourself.
Yeah, stop. Yeah, exactly. It's that whole classic thing. And then when Jace says it again, Tuck punches him in the stomach. You know, Jace is having a tough time. Jace at this point decides, I know what I'll do. I'll read Tuck's mind. What could possibly go wrong? And he learns this whole... Well, we don't sort of get it in detail. Jace just straight up says it. So he just goes, oh, it must have been frightening. Oh, waiting for him to come home knowing he was going to beat you again. And you hid the knife in your bed every night, but you never used it.
Jeez.
Like, mate.
This is a bit much. I thought Origins was designed to get young people into magic.
No, straight for the savagery from Jace. Just bringing up how Tuck's got an abusive dad or something.
Yeah.
Tuck, understandably annoyed.
Tuck hurls himself off the major.
Yeah, Tuck, understandably annoyed, shoves Jace right towards the edge of the Mage Ring. We're talking, like, Jace lives on the 23rd floor. They are very high up. And he slips and he's catches himself and he's dangling off the Mage Ring. And underneath him there's mana shooting through the Mage Ring. If he falls off, he's going to get disintegrated or fall to his death or both. It's not looking good for Jace. And because Jace has just, brought up Tuck's personal life, which, as we all know, is the best way to deal with bullying, is to imply
you want to make them feel inferior, that's what...
Yeah, make them feel small. So Tuck goes to stamp on Jace's fingers. Now, at this point, there's only one thing Jace can do. He takes control of Caden. He goes up in Caden's mind.
Oh, wow.
And Caden shoves Tuck aside, and Caden obviously has no control over this. He's now seeing through Caden's eyes, and he pulls himself up, looking through the eyes of Caden, and pulls him back onto the deck. At this point, Caden collapses, his eyes rolled back. Is he dead? Is he going to be all right? We don't know. Jace just runs off. Caden there, having just had his brain invaded.
He's just been hodored.
He's just been hodored, yeah. And he's just there, rolling around with his eyes rolled back. Is he okay? Jace runs away. Well, we may never know. We may never know. So we jump ahead a little bit. Jace is back in his room. He's packing up his bags, because what does a 13-year-old do when they've done wrong? They run away.
Yep.
That's the classic. But his mum comes in. We don't learn her name, but she comes in and she's doing the classic sort of mum stuff kind of thing of, oh, Jace, what happened? I'm on your side. And Jace explains what happened, and his mum's like, oh, you're a telepath. And she bloody loves it. She's all over it. She's like, oh, I'm so proud of you, Jace. Oh, a telepath, my own little boy. That's great. Jace asks, oh, how's Caden? Oh, he's still out cold. The medics don't know. The medics don't know what to do about Caden. They've never encountered this before. He's probably going to die. And then
he turns into Hodor. Then I like to think. Up until then he was Willis, and now
we never get
Walder.
We never get a confirmation of what happened to Caden. But I've got to assume it was bad.
Yeah.
Based on what Jace did there, morally a little bit shaky. He was about to be pushed off the edge of a mage ring.
Yeah.
Is it justified?
I think if there's one thing I've been taught by narrative, by story arcs, it's that you can always sacrifice an idiot to ensure the safety of a clever person.
Of the protagonist. Yeah. Well, anyway, a few days later, Jace has decided he's not going to run away. He's going to stick around, just keep his head down, see if everything blows over. Gav's been avoiding him. Gav doesn't like this development at all.
Okay.
Gav doesn't want a telepath son. He just wants a normal son who can go and, screw rivets on the mage rings.
Work down the mines.
Yeah, exactly. And his mum goes to Jace and goes, oh, there's someone here to see you. He can't fit in here, so you're going to have to go to the observation deck. Now, does Jace immediately make the jump?
I know who it is.
You know who it is?
Well, there's only one other person from Jace's origin story that I know.
Who is it?
Alhammaret.
Exactly right.
Yay!
So it's Alhammaret. They haven't told him that yet. They just go, oh, he's an arbiter. He knows how to help you control your abilities. And then they head up to the observation deck, and there he is in all his resplendent glory. Alhammaret, the High Arbiter. He's a big old sphinx. He's got a beard. He's got everything you want from a sphinx, He's big, he's winged, bearded.
He's got a man's face.
Yeah, got a man's face. And Alhammaret and Jace, they immediately hit it off, start communicating telepathically, no talking with their mouths, it's all in their head, which made this story quite difficult to transcribe into note form because I didn't want to just read it, but a lot of it is just them talking back and forth. So Alhammaret's like, look, Jace, I can't abandon my work as arbiter, but I will take you with me to train you. So come with me, I'll train you how to be a proper telepath and all that. And Jace, first chance he gets, he's like, yep, sure, I'm out of here. Gets on back of Alhammaret. A crowd's gathered, understandably.
He gets on the back of Alhammaret?
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, right? That's trusting.
That's quite intimate
for a start, isn't it? It is intimate. A sphinx sort of just letting you ride on them.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But in any case, he's on Alhammaret's back, and just as he's about to take off, he spots Tuck. So Tuck, main bully, and he telepathically communicates to Tuck, if you harm my family, I'll take your mind apart one squalid little memory at a time, is what he says.
Whoa! Imagine just hearing that in your mind.
In your mind, from this little shit who's just made your friend brain dead.
Who's on the back of a sphinx right now. That's... Aww.
Alhammaret scolds Jace a bit and goes, that was unkind. Which, understatement of the year. Understatement of the year right there. Yeah. And Jace is like, oh, I just wanted to scare him. To which Alhammaret replies, tread that path carefully. In time, you will become more terrifying than you can imagine, and fear, once inspired, can seldom be eased. Words of wisdom from Alhammaret there.
Alhammaret.
As they're flying off, across Vryn, Alhammaret's got Jason in his back, and he explains the situation about the war. So the role of the arbiters is they oversee diplomacy between the two sides.
Okay.
So sometimes there'll be a brief peace between the Trovians and the Amprins. but one side will inevitably break it. So the arbiters don't even bother looking for a permanent peace. What they're just trying to do is manage the war to make sure it doesn't get out of hand and that no one ends up destroying the majoring network.
Okay.
Because what they don't want is someone to lose the war drastically, and as they're getting defeated, to blow everything up and ruin the whole mana system.
Yeah.
So the arbiter's role is to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay.
By just making sure the war doesn't get out of hand and keeping it on a nice, a nice stable war rather than
profitable war.
A nice profitable war. Yeah. And as long as each side thinks they can win, they won't blow up the majoring network because they want it. So that's the idea there.
Okay.
You can't let anyone win outright, or the others will blow it up. That's the gist. 2 years later, Jace has been taught a lot by Alhammaret. Alhammaret's been teaching him how to use the powers of his mind. Definitely some comparisons to be made here between Alhammaret and Hixus.
Oh, yeah.
They both take on young children and teach them how to magic properly.
Yeah. Or Dumbledore.
Yeah, so
or Yoda.
And by this point, Jace can learn military secrets from people. He can cloud thoughts. He can even change people's minds without hurting the person. So he's essentially a Jedi at this point.
Even Bruce Almighty can't do that.
No, he can change people's minds.
That's pretty big.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's going on little missions with Alhammaret now and then. Going along to peace talks, using a bit of telepathy just to see what both sides know at these peace talks, although by this point both of the sides have clocked onto this and that there are sphinxes that can read minds, so they don't send anyone who knows anything to these peace talks. So they just send people along with the information,
just grunts,
but not the secrets.
Yeah, okay,
so that's
cool.
the idea. So there's all sorts of meetings going along there. Alhammaret describes it as they learned long ago not to send anyone who knew anything they didn't want spoken aloud.
Goodness me.
Yeah, so he's got a rough time, Alhammaret. He's got a tricky job. So Jace, meanwhile, in and out of these meetings, is undergoing constant training. There's mental sparring, there's quizzes, there's tests, questions, classic Sphinx stuff.
Yeah.
A riddle for you, Jace. All that sort of stuff. Of course, the Sphinx is making him do quizzes and tests.
Yeah.
What a shock. And one time, he's practicing his illusions, and he does it too hard, and he blacks out, and he doesn't remember anything that happened there because he was working really, really hard. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the sort of training side of things. On the other hand of things, he's being given missions by Alhammaret, where he sneaks into either the Ampharan or Trovian bases, learns what they're up to, and reports all that back to Alhammaret. So he's also taken on a sort of stealthy agent kind of role. And because he's got this telepathy and because he can read minds, he can sneak past guards, he can send them to sleep, all that sort of stuff. So he can get in, learn stuff, get out.
You're searching for.
Precisely, and no one will know he was there because he's got all this stuff going on. His most recent report, as we're sort of carrying on through the story, is that the Trovians are going to launch an attack on the Ampharan core, which will bring the war to places it hasn't been before. It's civilian areas, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's potentially forcing the Ampharans out of the core states altogether, which is quite a big move. So Alhammaret's like, oh, that's interesting. Let me get up the holographic map you could show me on the map where everything goes. And while Jace is sort of doing this, while he's sort of doing the illusions out, he notices Alhammaret is a bit distracted. And there's been a back and forth between them of like mental battles, trying to get inside each other's minds. Obviously, Alhammaret wins.
Yeah.
But there's been that. And Jace thinks this might be a time to try and get in there and test his mental defences. So he does just that. And he manages just to sneak in while Alhammaret's distracted, just to see what the Sphinx is thinking about.
He's evil.
Well, he sees something. So what he sees is the time where he was practicing his illusions and he went too hard. And the stuff that he'd forgotten is that Jace essentially vanishes while he's doing that. So he's seeing the illusions, there's illusions all over the place, and Jace vanishes from the room.
Right.
And Alhammaret manages to pull him back, and in Alhammaret's mind, Jace hears the word planeswalker. Obviously, Jace doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
But what he does know is, that went down, that's weird, what's that about?
And Alhammaret's removed that memory.
Yeah, Alhammaret has removed that memory from Jace. He's, he's acknowledged that Jace is a planeswalker. He knows what one of those is, and he's wiped Jace's memory of that. So Jace, a bit shaken, seems to get away with it. Alhammaret doesn't challenge him up front. It seems like he got away with that, and he goes to his room to rest. While he's in his room, he makes a note on a bit of paper of what he's seen today, and then he wipes his own memory. So he wipes his own memory so that Alhammaret can't read it and see that Jace knows.
Okay.
So he's written it down, he's got that, and down the line he goes on to find this piece of paper several times, and each time he gets really annoyed. And each time he goes,
this is such an amalgam. This now we're turning into Memento.
Yeah, or 1984. This, stuff like this in 1984.
Everything.
Yeah. Every time he finds it, he comes to the same conclusion of, Alhammaret can't know that I know this, and re-wipes his memory. But he's got that bit of paper. Now, at this point, I want to briefly interject in the story, just to point out how on point the flavour is for Jace Vryn's Prodigy, the card. Because the ability on him is you tap him to draw a card, discard a card.
Yeah.
So he's learning stuff constantly from Alhamret, but at the same time, his memory's getting wiped.
Yeah.
So he learns new stuff, but he forgets stuff that he knew before. And that's the looting mechanic done really nicely and flavourfully. And obviously, once he learns enough, we'll get there. But yeah, so that's the situation he's in. So he's been trained. He's learned Alhamret knows stuff about him that he's not telling him. There's something a little bit shaky going on. Anyway, jump forward. He's on a new mission. This time he's in the Amperin camp. These two sides may sound very similar. There's not really any distinction given between them.
I don't feel like they matter.
They're both one of the reds, one of the blues. You know, like it doesn't really matter. And Jace in this camp, he learns someone important's coming, like this general who's decorated veteran. He's been in the war for ages. He's got scars or whatever, and he's very closely guarded. He's got 2 guards outside his tent, 2 guards inside. So Jace locates the tent, puts the 2 guards outside to sleep, send to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Send to sleep, remember that card?
Lovely.
Yeah, that's what he's doing there. And he goes in, there's 2 more guards, sends them to sleep. General opens his mouth to try and go, someone get this little shit out of my tent. And Jace manages to shut him up. He stops him from producing any sound.
Yeah.
And he goes right on into the general's mind, as you do. Nice to meet you. What's going on in your head? And inside his head, he sees a memory that the general has of this sort of hooded figure meeting, discussing the battle plans of the opposing side, and then taking some payment. And this seems to be something that's been going on for a little while. So it's like, all right, so there's this hooded figure who's going around selling information to people. And Jace is like, who is this guy? But before he can fully grasp it, there's a hustle and bustle outside the tent. He's got to get out. So he pulls himself out. But as he pulls himself out, because he's been in there a bit too long, he leaves the general brain dead. Completely brain dead. Man just collapses. He's got nothing left in his mind. He's still alive, but he's brain dead. So that's the second person so far in the story.
He's 2 for 2.
This is a war veteran, man. This is someone who's survived like battles and all sorts, and he's just been left brain dead by a 14-year-old boy who was trying to learn some military secrets. So he's like, oh, that's weird. Who's selling them all this information? Whatever could be going on here? So he goes back to Alhamret's place, rediscovers the note from before, gets annoyed again, adds a bit of extra stuff on about, there's this hooded guy, what's going on with that? Scrumbles it up, wipes his memory, the classic. He does all that, and he confronts Alhamret. There's a bit of the story where it describes the places Jace goes where Alhamret isn't. I thought I'd leave that out because it's a bit like a kid's book. Okay, where's Alhamret? He's not in the library. He's not in the basement. But he finds him, and Alhamret's like, oh, welcome back, what have you learned? And Jace, he puts up his mental defences, which Alhamret clocks. He's like, hold up, what's going on there? He's figuring out Jace has learned something that displeases him in some way. Oh no, it's nothing, says Jace. It's just been a while since we practiced mental combat, hasn't it? And it has, says Alhamret, but you're more powerful now. You could hurt yourself. Hurt you mean, says Jace.
Oh, that's the kind of... To be honest, I like Jace a lot more than Kithian, I must say.
Yeah, no, I thought you might. And then Alhamret replies, unlikely. And then...
It's time for a clash of wills.
It is time for a clash of wills, but not quite yet, because Jace goes, well, what if I fell into the hands of an enemy mind mage? We can't be the only ones, can we? Test me. Help me find my limits. Pry the information out of me. Then we get the clash of wills.
Okay.
So, Harry Potter style beams of light, I'm imagining, shooting through each other's heads.
Yeah, and they meet in the middle.
And Alhamret's straight up in Jace's head. He's way better at this than Jace is.
Really?
So he's all up in Jace's mind. And while this is going on, Jace figures out the truth. So the truth, as he sort of gleans from Alhamret's mind as Alhamret's messing with his mind, is that Jace has been played. Jace has been used as a go-between, gathering information from one side, delivering it to the other, and learning more as he delivers that. All that information Alhamret's making money from, Alhamret has decided to keep the war going on as long as possible because he's in the business of peace.
Yeah.
So he makes money from there being a war. So he's been using Jace to prolong that war by giving information to the other sides, and all of this stuff is going on. So that's the big twist in the tale.
Okay.
Is Jace has been an agent of Alhamret, essentially. He's been played. Alhamret's just using him to make money. And Jace realises while... because obviously he's furious that Alhamret has done all of this for years. Now the thing is, because Alhamret is in Jace's mind currently, he is vulnerable. His mind is in Jace's mind, so he's vulnerable to attack. But the only way he'd be vulnerable is if Jace destroyed a bit of his own mind. And this is something Alhamret has never considered, because he's too cowardly and arrogant to think that that's something someone would do.
Yeah.
Because why would you do that? So Jace does that, and he destroys a bit of his own mind. So he's like wiping whole bits of his mind, and that messes up Alhammarette completely, who crumples to the ground, forgets how to breathe.
What?
So he's rolling around trying to breathe, which he can't because Jace has erased that whole bit out of his mind, and then Jace planes walks away.
Wow.
He's gone from Vryn. That's the end of the battle. That's the end of the Clash of Wills. Alhammarette forgetting how to breathe
That's
and
the death
choking
of
to death.
Alhammarette.
Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. And Jace then wakes up in Ravnica. He doesn't know it's Ravnica, but he's a telepath, so he can hear what people are thinking.
Yeah.
So he picks up bits and pieces here and there. He doesn't remember where he's from. He doesn't remember his name properly. He doesn't remember who his mum is, because he had to destroy a huge part of his own mind to get to where he is.
Yeah.
So he's wandering around. He picks up bits and pieces, and then from the mind of a homeless girl, he hears the name Imara Tandris. Apparently she's good for taking in strays. Imara Tandris, you might not know this because we weren't really playing around Ravnica, is the leader of the Green-White Selesnya group. So she's the top elf there.
Cool.
So he goes...
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, yeah, so he goes to meet Imara, and he sees her and he thinks, oh, she's beautiful. To which Imara, who's not a telepath, goes, if you've come only to admire me, I'm afraid I haven't the time. You're a mind reader, he said. No, a teenager. You're a teenager is what you are, Jace. I know what you're here for, says Imara Tandris.
Yes.
So he gets sassed by a wise old elf.
Good.
And then, yeah, after a time with sort of chilling with Imara and hanging out in Ravnica, he recalls a few things, where he's from and his name, Jace Beleren. But who is Jace Beleren? Is he a good man? Is he kind? He'd have to wait and see. And that's the end of the story. So, how do you feel about that?
So Ravnica is where he becomes the Living Guild Pact.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah. And then after that he goes somewhere.
Oh, there's all Jace.
He's been around.
Jace has been all over the place, so it's good that we're only sticking with the origin, because I imagine that's already been quite a long story.
No, the story of Jace goes on for
a young lad from Yorkshire who learns the secret of telepathy.
Peter Parker / Harry Potter / Brandon Stark
gets used as a double agent in a war for a bit. You know, he does all sorts.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that is the story of Jace Vryn's prodigy. It is a bit of a confusing one. The next one is far more simple. The next one will be Liliana.
I've realised I know one thing that Liliana does.
Yeah. So that'll be an interesting one.
I'm looking forward to that.
So, yeah, I mean, that is the tale of Jace. Do you have any sort of final words about Jace, having learned that sort of story from him? Any sort of remarks?
I thought that I really disliked Jace.
Right.
And maybe once he's planeswalked, he does turn into a real dick. But there, he was... I would have ranked him as more annoying than Kithian before I'd heard these stories.
Right.
So I should reserve judgment on people, shouldn't I?
Because Kithian, we're so far agreed, is the most annoying.
He is by far the most annoying. He's a dick. But Jace, I got a lot of sympathy for Jace.
He has a rough time, doesn't he?
He does have a rough time. It's not his fault he's so clever. It's hard. It's really hard being a genius.
I think that's the thing about Jace, isn't he? He represents the sort of brilliant young man that so many Magic players believe themselves to be.
Ooh, ouch!
You know, it's, I think all the time and nobody understands me.
Oh, I might cut this out.
Leave it in. Bring it. Let me know in the comments what you think of that scathing attitude I have there. That sweeping generalisation I've just made about the community at large.
About our target audience.
About ourselves as well. Like, you know, I'm not denying there's an element of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know what you thought. There'll be a link to the full story in the description if you need to read it to clarify. I'd recommend it. It's a pretty well-written story. It's nicely put together. Yeah, follow us on Twitter. We're at Thriving Scrubs. Give us a subscribe, give us a like, give us a comment, whatever you desire. There will be more of this. We're going to do all 5, I think. I'm enjoying doing the research. Yeah. You're enjoying having to just sit back and hear the story and occasionally make a silly comment. So, yeah, we'll see you next time. Good luck, have fun out there. Thank you for watching.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.